And welcome to the Conference Championship recap show. We had a great weekend. A lot of great performances, a world record, collegiate record, a pretty busy weekend. A few duds, but that's to be expected. It's part of the championship experience. But I want to talk about first, in our first leg of our four-leg edition, we'll talk about the number one performances because there were a total of 10 new number one marks and want to make sure we get them addressed. We had Terrence Jones in the 200 run a 20.21, which converts to 20.28 because it was at altitude. We're going to address Terrence Jones of Texas Tech later on in our matchup portion of the show because some things did not go the way he planned to in the 60-meter dash, but he is the new NCAA leader in the 200. But the big story in the running world, obviously in the 400-meter dash, Christopher Morales Williams of University of Georgia by way of Canada broke the world record in the 400-meter dash, 4:4:49, taking down Michael Norman's NCAA record and world indoor record. What an incredible performance. This young man just lined up and went for it. Did not he got to the break first, and he got there really quickly with a lot of strength and a lot of grit. I was like, man, he's really pushing it, and did never let up. And for Coach Carol Smith Gilbert, the price went up because she's in the SEC. She's known historically as a great women's coach. 400 meters has kind of been owned by Florida, Texas A&M, and LSU in the SEC for the past decade, and recently heavily by Florida. And I say recently, and I say that because of their great outdoor success, they've had quite a few NCAA champs, but they've also done well the past couple of years at the SEC meet, at the national meet. This was a little different. Kudos to him, 44-49. This makes Georgia a threat when it comes to recruiting 400-meter runners. They've already been that, but this further solidifies the program. They're not going to take a backseat to anyone, and neither will this young man. Young Canadian, he may be our next sub 44 runner outdoors. Remains to be seen. Things are different on the one lap compared to two laps. There's no break. You run the race a little differently. So we'll see what Christopher Williams does this coming outdoor season, but kudos to him. Then you had Johnny Brackens of USC become the number one time performer in the 60-meter hurdles, 7.55. It's been a while since we had a USC hurdler be at the top, and I want to say probably either Alex Harris about a good 5 to 7 years ago, and prior to him, it was a long while. We're talking Ryan Wilson. Yes, that Ryan Wilson. It's been a while, but he is to me the next big gun they're going to have in hurdles, and he's outstanding. And I say hurdles and high hurdles. I'm fully aware of the great 400-meter hurdler Ryan Benjamin, but in high hurdles, I think Johnny Brackens is their newest and probably their best star, their best chance of winning an NCAA title in this event. Kenneth Ikiji of Harvard, our first 80-foot weight thrower of the year, 80 feet and a quarter inch, 24.39 meters. An outstanding mark by that young man. A Harvard man winning at the Ivy League championships. I know the focus is on really what has been the Power Five or what will be the Power Four, but we can't ignore the great performances that seem to come out of the Ivy League year in and year out. Amber Anning of Arkansas did win a new number one time in the 400, 50.43. I still think she's going to lower that again. I still think with that speed, she's a 50 point or sub 50 point runner. We'll see. But she ran a great race and phenomenal competition. There are three women in that field that ran sub 51 indoors, which just blows my mind, and all from Arkansas. Let me just say that. They're by far the best 400-meter program in the country for women. It's not even a competition at this point. Then we'll look at Michaela Rose of LSU, 1:59.25, continuing to remain number two all time. That is a new personal best. No shocker, LSU has a great 800-meter runner, but I mean, she really just is the class of the field. It's just every time she steps on the track, she seems to know what's needed, not only to win, but to outdo herself from the previous race. Just, I look more for her. I think she's the best shot we have at potentially seeing Ating Mu's records going down. Then will jump over to the high jump. Lamar Dixon of Texas A&M, a new NCAA record, 6 feet 6'3" 1/4 inches, 2 meters, a new Jamaican record. Lamar Dixon. I mean, she's been mentioned on my blog and here in this channel a lot, and she's just gonna continue to be until she graduates this year. I am gonna miss this talented young woman because she shows up often. Even if she doesn't always win, she's right there. She finds a way to be in the thick of it. And she always seems to find a way to be in the thick of it during a championship time performance. Outstanding young woman. Amelia Shostrand of San Jose State. A shocker in the triple jump. It wasn't Ruta Lastmain, it was her. She's our first triple jumper over 46 feet, 46, 2 3/4 inches, 14.09 meters. From a smaller school, San Jose State, which does have some history, but they're not a part of a major conference. But we need to keep an eye on that because that's a really big time jump. Maya Lesnar, Brock Lesnar's daughter of Colorado State, becoming the new #1 thrower on the shot put. Again, she's really kind of been the girl all year long. 62 feet, 8 inches, 19.10 meters. And I should say been the woman because she's just literally Wonder Woman. A 62 foot throw at this point at the year. Great mark. And if you've seen her pictures, she is built solid. And so we'll probably be seeing more great marks from this young lady later on. And lastly, Jelani Davis of Ole Miss, our 82-foot thrower in the weight throw. Yes, you heard me correctly. 82 feet 3 3/4 inches, 25.09 meters. Jelani Davis had a heck of a weekend, and she really displayed it there in the weight throw. And that's our first leg. Just going over the #1 performances. And to have 10, I think we may have wanted more, but 10 is a lot when it's a highly competitive weekend. And athletes are probably trying to be more strategic, but quite a few of them were not. They were clearly going for the times because it's hard to make that national championship meet. Individually, only the top 16 go, and there will be some big names left off. Our second leg will be our best matchups from the women's side, and I'll start with the 60 hurdles and we'll look at the SEC because I had mentioned this in the preview, and it was great to see Grace Stark of Florida versus Aaliyah Armstrong of LSU. Stark actually got out first and never really let up. She won the race 7.90. I honestly did think it was going to be Aaliyah Armstrong, but it wasn't. Grace Stark had a pretty good meet for the Gators. She gave, I believe, 14 team points. She also finished fifth in the 60-meter dash with another 7.2 performance. Grace Stark, I'm happy to see her rounding in the championship performance around the postseason, especially after she's had to deal with some injuries. We'll stay in the SEC with the 60-meter dash, and it was Brianna Liston of LSU versus Jason Sears of Tennessee, and it was Liston. She's already got a 707. Why not run 708 to further solidify that I am the #1 sprinter in the country? And I think she did that. You know, we can't ignore Sears' 704 as our personal best, but she didn't run no 704. And let's not ignore that Liston probably can run lower than that. I was a little disappointed to not see her in the 200 because I think she's a really talented 200-meter runner. She in high school ran a 22.5 into a headwind. Let's take a minute to recognize what that means. This young lady has been fast for a while. And I look forward to a great outdoor season. I think she's definitely a sub-11 second performer. And we'll move to the Big 12 for the 800. And it was Kellyanne Beckford of Houston versus Gabija Galvadite of Oklahoma State. Um, I was shocked because I thought it was going to be the 3 or 5K as the better matchup, but it was the 800. This was two sub 201 runners. They would add it throughout the race, and Beckford just won. She outlasted, and I think this Houston had a very solid outing for their first Big 12 championships, and I think it's just going to go up from here. Texas and Oklahoma are moving on, and I think that this is where Houston takes a step up. What a great performance Kellyanne Beckford had, and her along with her school. The SEC will move to for the high jump. Lamar Dixon of Texas A&M, I've already mentioned her collegiate record, but it's who she went up against. Rachel Glenn of South Carolina, and Glenn showed up. A 6'4" jump is no slouch performance. We can't ignore how talented that young woman is, and she's come over. I'm sorry, not of South Carolina, but of Arkansas. She left South Carolina to come to Arkansas, and clearly that was a smart decision. Her and Romaine Bedford are the two big transfers in that event, and both have kind of panned out well. We'll move to the Big 12 for the triple jump, and it was an upset. I know I mentioned them as, the big matchup in the Big 12 in regards to triple jump, and it lived up to the hype. But I really did think this was going to be Rita Last-Main of Texas Tech's time to shine, and it wasn't. It was Benny Wee of Oklahoma State. She took the lead, 44 feet, 9 3/4 inches, to Rita Last-Main's 44 9, and literally less than an inch, but still found a way to win. And we'll move back to the SEC for the shot put, and it was Jelani Davis of Ole Miss versus Alita Van Dylen of Florida, and I thought it was going to be Van Dylen, and it wasn't. It was Jelani Davis of Ole Miss. She had a heck of a weekend. Two SEC titles, a number 1 mark. I mean, I really think she might pull out the double at nationals. 20 huge team points in a national championship meet for Ole Miss is going to mean a lot. And then in the 4x4, South Carolina versus Arkansas, and this I say with a grain of salt because South Carolina did win 326-0 over Arkansas's 326-3, but it was Arkansas's B squad. And well, I'm not going to say full B squad because there were two big names on that, Sanu Jallo and Kalen Brown. And I just think that come national championship time, that team is probably going to put up a 323, maybe even a 322. Reminder, they have three 50-second runners. Three sub 51 runners, I should say, and along with Rosie Effiong, who I believe ran 22.5. Something tells me that she has a 50-point performance in her. And maybe this week off of competition, she focuses on the technical side of the 400 and lowers that time because they could go 1, 2, 3, 4 easily. So we'll see. I just think Arkansas is so deep. Moving to the third leg, we'll look at the men's best matchup, and I think we'll start with the world record holder, the SEC 400. It was pretty much Christopher Morales Williams versus the field, and it didn't seem that way in the prelims because of how well Javon Powell of Florida ran 45-3 in the prelims. You thought, oh, this is the next Florida guy, and it was not. It was Christopher Morales Williams who ran that 44.49. Again, I stated he got to the break first, and he got there with such tenacity and didn't let up. I mean, I saw his I'll say 100, and he just kept pulling away from the field. It was his show, and he made sure you knew it. And I also think a really good matchup was the SEC men's 200. Florida does go 1-2, but we did not get a chance to see Wanya McCoy and Robert McGregory of Florida compete against each other. They were in two separate heats winning. But McCoy runs 20.29. We thought at the time he was going to have the number 1 time in the nation. But Terrence Jones decided to rebound from the 60. And we'll pivot right now to the Big 12 for the 60. Terrence Jones of Texas Tech false started. That was the big story because I was looking forward to his matchup against his teammates Swint and Caleb Dean. And I thought after that 6.52 in the prelims of Caleb Dean over 6.53 of Terrence Jones, I said, I know it's a prelim, but there's some smoke on Caleb Dean, and I think this may be his chance to pull off a Grant Holloway. I even put that in a Facebook group that Caleb Dean is showing Grant Holloway speed. But it wasn't either with, I think Dean may be a little tired, just maybe. But Swint claims victory, 6.55, and Jones misses the final of the 60 meters in the Big 12. I think he'll rebound at nationals because he had a similar issue last year. So I would, he's an explosive starter, but perhaps this time we reel just a little bit of that in. We'll move to the ACC for the men's mile because that was, to me, the best mile competition of the weekend. 4 men under the 4-minute mark in the mile with with Parker Wolf of North Carolina winning with 3:54.17. Parker Wolf continuing to be the distance stud of North Carolina and of the ACC. Because, I mean, he just showed up and showed out this weekend. What an outstanding young man. And I look forward to seeing what he does come nationals. We'll go back to the Big 12 for the 60 hurdles and the upset again. Davion Wilson of Houston over Caleb Dean of Texas Tech. Caleb Dean has clearly got the faster speed, but Wilson had the better technique over the hurdles, and that's what matters in the hurdles. And as I said, with Kellyanne Beckford winning the 800, Houston was very comfortable this weekend at the Big 12 championships. They're only going to go up from here. In the SEC, we'll go back to the men's 4x4. And I was a little shocked at the final results. I didn't think Alabama would get DQ, but they did. And had they not, they would have had the number one time in the nation. I think they're still going to obviously qualify to nationals. They have a 303 on record. But that was disappointing. And I was also disappointed. I'll say this as a Florida fan to see the Gators come last or Heat. Um, Obviously, they had no Genoa McIver, who did not finish in the Open 400, which was a disappointment. But I'm curious to see what Coach Holloway does come uh, national time, if he makes any tinkering to his relay order. We'll stay in the SEC and it's the long jump, and it was Wayne Pennick of Arkansas versus Florida Jumpers. That's what it was. Florida finished second, third, and fourth. Malcolm Clemens was very close to winning this, 26 feet, 11 and 3/4 inches. But it was again Wayne Pennick of Arkansas, another 27 feet jump, 27 feet 2, 8 point, I want to say 2.8 meters. Just outstanding talent. And he always shows up at a championship meet. Always. And for the ACC is where we'll go for the triple jump. Jeremiah Davis of Florida State versus Russell Robinson of Miami. I did in my preview pick Robinson to win this, but Davis proved me wrong, which should have been expected. Just having an outstanding year, and I think that he's kind of under the radar still. I think the focus has really been on the SEC guys and Johnny Brackens because of how great they've performed. This is going to be a great event at nationals, both the triple jump and long jump. The SEC shot put, the SEC is going to have 6 men qualify to nationals. Just so you know, 6 of 16 spots will be coming from one conference. And Tariq Robinson O'Hagan was the class of the field, a 66-foot throw. Just so many talented throwers. It was a great competition all weekend for the throwers, but specifically in the shot put. And moving to our anchor leg, we'll look at the team title pictures because things got clarified this weekend. They really did. And it was kind of an eye opener because I think we all realized, dang, Arkansas is really that deal because they really put a hurting. I mean, the men put up 160 points. I was like, wow. But they've done better than that, if you can believe it. Arkansas just, I think they're too loaded. I'm aware of the great team that Northern Arizona has. I'm aware of a solid team that USC has because their potential to score high in their events. You just can't outdo the depth of Arkansas. They're going to have two great relays, great jumpers, great hurdlers, great sprinters, and great distance runners. They are going to be competing the entire weekend, almost every chance they get. This is going to be very difficult to beat them. I think they were a solid, obvious number one. And on the women's side, I'd say the same. As great as I see, Florida is capable of scoring high. They have a great distance squad. Then they have Grace Stark in the hurdles and the sprints. And then you have Claire Bryant in the jump. But some of their squad, to me, underperformed this indoor season and heavily in their 400. Their 400 runners did not show up, and their 4x4 I don't think is qualified and will not because they're not one of the top 12. So without a 4x4 relay, I'm not sure if they're able to compete because the 4x4 relay really has become a staple. In order for you to win a national title, you have to have a group that's qualified and can score. And Florida doesn't have that right now. I think things will change come outdoor season. I also think things will change in the off season because I do think Florida's going to really ramp up recruiting in that area. At least they have to. But that is our recap. Um, Fantastic weekend. I just was salivating going from Flow Track on the Big 12 to ESPN for the SEC and the ACC. Yeah, you had the Big 10 if you were streaming. It was an outstanding meet. I think Nationals in a couple of weeks will be incredible. We're going to do a preview show, obviously. We'll wait to see what the accepted and declared performances stayed, and we'll see the heat sheets, and that's when we'll go ahead and put the preview out. Again, I don't want to make a prediction, and the athlete has decided not to compete. So we'll go ahead and see what the preview looks like at that time once we have the heat sheets. As always, please like and subscribe, share if you can, provide feedback whether positive or negative. This is a safe space. I want this space to grow. In order to do that, I need your feedback and support. And thank you again, and I will see you next week.